Black Panther, Wakanda Forever premiered yesterday here in the Federation, and of course there was a big craze. But we aren't the only ones celebrating. As most of you may know, Black Panther is one of the most acclaimed films ever released. It has revitalized the appreciation of African culture and heritage, especially for us in the diaspora. In honor of this powerful film, we will now have a candid discussion about appreciating Afro-Caribbean culture. Joining us, we are pleased to welcome Enoete Inanga and Major Kayode Sutton. They are both of Nigerian descent, but have spent quite a large portion of their lives here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So let's find out what their experience has been like so far. Why not just ask that question? What is your experience been like so far?
My goodness.
Yeah, welcome back.
I don't know who's going to... I will actually let the captain... We're both in the defense force, by the way, so he's my...
Oh.
Like, superior, so I'll let him...
I see what's happening here. I love that.
So he's now pushing me
Exactly.
up front now since that we're online, right? Not before. All right. The experience, it's no different from living anywhere else.
Okay.
After how do I put it? Nigeria is diverse, okay, and so is Africa. Just looking at Africa, looking at Nigeria alone, to start with, it's so diverse. It's almost 200, and I think it's over 250 million people.
Bigger cities.
And 36 states in Nigeria. And, some of them are much bigger than some states in the United States and so on. So it's diverse. And then Africa as well is diverse. So having lived in that society, coming to St. Kitts, which is just a dot, right? It's like probably the size of a marketplace in the town where he grew up, where they sell African fabrics in Ibadan. St. Kitts is just as big as a marketplace where they sell African fabrics. That's it. So it's not too hard to adapt. Depends on where you live and depends on the kind of social interactions. Anywhere you live in the world, it's just like a triangle. My mom always used to say that it's a triangle. You leave home, you go to school, you probably go to the gym or pick up groceries or whatever, or eat and back home.
Yeah, triangle. Indeed.
So it's a triangle. So now here, the triangle is so small, right?
Dot.
It's a dot.
in his Nigerian accent.
Right. It's so small, and but once you keep active, you entangle yourself with what is that interests you. It's not too hard to live here. I give you a point of reference. There's a university in the town where we lived, which is Ile-Ife in Osun State in Nigeria. The university is 924 square kilometers in diameter. Okay? I think they probably have maybe over 50,000 undergrads, freshmen every year. So it tells you and that is just one university in a state. It's not the only university.
Oh, wow. But how did you gentlemen found out about St. Kitts? Well, your parents, I should say, because I would want to assume those are the ones that brought you here, because I see you have one Kittitian parent and one Nigerian parent.
Yeah.
So how did they find out about this little dog?
So we're the complement of our experiences.
Yeah.
My mom is Kittitian, dad is Nigerian, and his mom...
My dad is Kittitian.
Oh, it's the other way around. Nice.
Yeah. So... When we were growing up, our parents made sure we always had a deep appreciation for other cultures in the world.
Nice.
So we traveled. Dad was never stinking rich because he invested in those forms of our education. So while he was a university professor, an opportunity that they would get to save up towards being able to fly out, because we have 4 children, right? he would do that, and we would come to St. Kitts from the time I was like, I think 4.
Okay.
We would have been to Canada, been to the UK, all of those experiences. So by the time I came here, I had this deep appreciation for other cultures. So it wasn't that big of a culture shock
Okay.
until I maybe became an adult. You know, like sometimes they say St. Kitts is not a real place. Right? And so let's leave it at that. Euphemisms will have to do for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny, and my thoughts are like off the charts now, Enoete, after you said that. But okay, no culture shock for
None
you,
whatsoever.
Major Sutton. No culture shock for you.
No. I mean, it's just like you said, you know, traveling, you know, being here a few times, and then also we traveled. I mean, the other day I was just like, you know, how many countries have I visited? Probably about 140, if not more.
Wow.
That's growing up, and then, you know, with work and all that. So you learn to, you know, to be tolerant of others, and to overlook, because you see everything, you experience everything, and you know, so I don't think there's any way I can go that I'm going to have cultural shock, and that is, you know, attribute to growing up in Nigeria, because like I said, you see everything, you experience everything.
Nice.
You know, so it's not it wasn't a shock, but you know, the smallest of the place sometimes, your neighbors, and you know, everybody knows you and things like that, and that is it was difficult for me to deal with at first, because if you're in the streets of Lagos is one of the smallest cities. Well, it's the smallest state in Nigeria, I think. Lagos is small, but Lagos city has probably close to 30 million people.
And that's small.
The state itself is small, but the city is big, population-wise. At least over 20 million people live in Lagos. The probability that you live in Lagos and I will run into you, it might be once in a lifetime.
That's true.
Might be once in a lifetime.
Wow.
I see you once, I probably will never see you again, unless if we live next door or we work in the same location and so on. So it's sometimes it's like, whoa, you know, it's just too close. You walk around Bastia, you see the same people twice, 3 times. And that was my experience when I came here, because my great uncle we went to Nevis, and you know, he was taking me around. Now I'm, you know, big boy. I came here when I was about 17 plus thereabout. So he take me around, he introduced me to people, and I noticed faces. And then we went across to see some families in Nevis, because my grandfather was born in Nevis, and so on. So we went across to see some families in Nevis. And on the ferry, I see the same people. And then we're walking around, we spent the night in Nevis.
And
the first thing in the morning, you see, I said, no. So that don't happen in
Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
Okay.
The city where he lived was already, where Enoete lived in Nigeria, Ibadan, was already a city before the colonial masters. It's so vast, like it probably takes about 2 hours thereabout to drive from the town where we live to where he lived. Now, from the outskirts of the city to get to his house probably take you 4 hours.
What?
It's so vast, so vast.
It's interesting hearing your perspectives, because I appreciate the reference to it being a dot, and I get that because I look on the globe sometimes and I go, this is where we are, but then I only see a dot. And yet when I'm interacting with different people, I get the sense that we're larger than life sometimes. And I kind of wish that, and I'm glad that you're here for that, that perspective of where we fit into the whole thing would breed with it a sense of tolerance and a sense of humility as well. As we're talking about the movie Black Panther, the question that I overlooked as I got into your cultural heritage here was, have you seen the movie? And if so, is there anything that stood out for you? Not the new one, because we don't want any spoilers out there yet, but the original Black Panther. Do you think it does a good job of representing, African heritage?
Honestly, I'm not a movie person. I'm too busy to watch a movie.
Oh man.
And I haven't watched it, so I cannot, reference it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Right.
can. Okay.
And
So he should speak about it.
the one thing about being back home, right? And I'm pretty sure you can attest to this. When we travel, we typically don't go to other African countries. Like, it's not something that we would have done often to appreciate other African cultures. We would just, there's so much within Nigeria, cultural differences,
Okay.
like polar opposites, all within one country, to go and start learning about another. It just wasn't commonplace, right? So, to answer that question, I can't definitively say yes or no.
Okay.
I can say when I compared it to, let's say, The Woman King, I did see a little bit more authenticity with, let's say, the king's accent, because he's a Nigerian. From the time he opened his mouth, I was like, that's a Nigerian, that's a true African. He's not trying to fake it, right? And so that's what I was kind of looking for in that first iteration of Black Panther, and sometimes I felt it was lacking.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I'm hoping that there will be some more situations where maybe they break out into their native tongue and you see those subtitles coming up, because at the end of the day, that gives it its authenticity. There is a movie on Netflix now where that is, I think it's Oba, or something, I can't remember. There's this movie that just came out on Netflix where they're speaking Yoruba, right? And you see the subtitles coming up and it has the cinematic and everything. I'm like, okay, yes, that for sure, is something I want to watch when I have the time. But I don't have time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't watch movies, so I
Don't have you're too busy.
yeah. But like you said, it's, trust me, Nigeria, and it's not too difficult for people to visit now. Nigeria is like America, where you find everybody. But the Nigerian context is just so vast. There are some languages that you just don't know. Like, if you move from like, we live in the Yoruba section of the country, so he understands Yoruba. I understand.
I don't. I chopped F9 for a while.
Well,
F9.
right. But it's not lost when, when you're talking about the real, because they're speaking Yoruba, and sometimes they're speaking Yoruba, and I'm like, huh? I'm trying, because, like when the lecturers, I'm looking for the word. Anyway, when some people are speaking Yoruba, I'm like, what? And I have to listen to it over and over and over again. Now, Yoruba is not my strong Nigerian language, even though I'm Yoruba and all that, but because I lived in the northern part of Nigeria, I speak Hausa, Arabic, and all those. So I understand those. I'm very, very at home there. Yeah. So, and they're completely different languages. Culturally, everything is so different. So, yes, I reiterate what Enoete said about, not venturing out to other African countries unless you have to. I had the opportunity to, but, you always reference back to what the experiences in Nigeria, because it's like in Lagos, you see everything. You see everything.
I have to say, you're selling Nigeria to me. And by the way, I love the Nigerian movies. I'm going to check with you to see whether they're authentic or not now. So this has been such an engaging conversation.
It sure
I feel
has
like
been.
you've just lifted the veil a little bit as to what it is to be growing up in a multicultural environment, but specifically, in Nigeria, and shedding light on that context for us. So we do appreciate that. Yes.
And St. Kitts, Dad used to say a lot of things when he was in Nigeria. He was like, it's like you won't eat breadfruit and things like that. It's like, I had enough. And, in the gut, in Kayode and so on, they said that was the meal. That was all that was available. And so on. And he used to say all sorts of things like, when I go here now, and a big man, and I look around and I see, I was like, okay, now I can relate and understand. Because if you have the same thing every day, and so on, you get fed up of it.
Yeah, you get fed up with it.
And you see chicken running around the circus and things like that when you're driving and so on. You see that in villages in Nigeria as well.
I'm still getting used to that, by the way.
But the people, it's not different, really. It's just it's a small scale.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was hard for me to get used to. I'm walking down the street, I see you now, and then I see you again, and I'm like, no.
Well, I promise you won't see me again before 2 weeks at least. I promise you that much. You're going to see me sooner.